It's Thursday on the Daily Wrestling News Show, and you know what that means. John DeCardi has collected a pile of juicy rumors for us to sort through in segment one, and we have a couple of good ones. Might we see X-Pac return to the ring to face Santos Escobar at WrestleMania? I'm Ryan Joy, and I run MinutesToBellTime.com, a website database tracking pro wrestling from around the world. On today's show, we're talking about the rumor mill in segment one, and yeah, X-Pac and Santos Escobar is one of those rumors. The rounder-upper of rumors, John DeCardi, is in the house, and we also have headlines in the last 24 hours, including a very newsworthy episode of AEW Dynamite in segment 2. And this is the Daily Wrestling News Show for September 9th, 2021, where we sort through all the bullshit in wrestling news to find you the truth. All right, John, welcome to the show.
Good morning, sir. How are we doing this morning?
Very good. I think we have to kick things off. I know we've got a whole pile of rumors and stuff to get through, but PWI 500 came out yesterday, and Kenny Omega stood at the top of the list, followed by Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, Kota Ibushi, Jon Moxley, Will Ospreay, Finn Balor, Shingo Takagi, and Rich Swann to round out the top 10. Any surprises in there, John?
Maybe a little bit of a surprise with Rich Swann. Well, I'm sure people have a lot to say about Rich Swann at 10. I don't disagree with it. I'm just maybe a little surprised to see him up that high, but good for him.
Rich Swann, the first Impact wrestler since 2014 to crack the top 10 of the PWI 500. So it is very interesting. When you think about Impact over the last year, man, is Rich Swann the top guy from Impact even the last year? And you think about it, and you're like, well, Moose really stood out, but he didn't win the title. He didn't have a run with that. And then you kind of go back to Kenny Omega. So he's at the top of the list. So, but yeah, if you're going to have somebody on the list from Impact, why not Rich Swann? I think he had the belt for 6 months of the evaluation period here. So, and he had a win in the main event of Bound for Glory, which was which was their biggest show of the year. And so I guess that,
you think of this year, Kenny Omega being all over the place, and he's, that big name. Swann had a fantastic match with him. So, just because he didn't get the 1, 2, 3, he still gets elevated.
Yeah, that's right. Roman Reigns, though, number 2. So it's kind of interesting with Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns. They're certainly, I think, the two top guys out there right now, and they both had great title runs at this point. Roman lacking behind. The only thing I can really say is if WWE was working with other companies and Roman Reigns was a traveling world champion, maybe that would make a difference. But it's tough when you see Kenny Omega at all these different places. Even no matter how great Roman's run has been, been in front of more eyeballs, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, Kenny Omega is just everywhere. He is omnipresent and draped in gold. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
For me, my favorite in the top 100. Just scanning the top 100 quickly. My favorite comes in at number 11.
Oh, who was it? I remember seeing it.
So. Cody Rhodes.
Yes. Cody Rhodes at number 11. Yep. I have to read up on his justification. I have the magazine, and for the top 10, PWI says, "Hey, here's why this person is number 1." And after you get after that, it just says, "Okay, here's this person's credentials." So, I assume he had a TNT run during the evaluation period, the TNT Championship run, but he came back. Like him returning to defeat Brody Lee would have been during this run. But yeah, it doesn't seem like he's in the same category as these other guys.
You wouldn't think, but hey, what are you going to
do? He's not booking this. I know that's what everybody said. He's not booking the PWI 500.
It makes you think for a half a second, but no, he's not.
All right, well, two guys that weren't in this year's PWI 500 that might be getting ready for a match based on the last night's Dynamite is Sting and Tully Blanchard. They would have definitely been in the PWI 500 the year it was established, but I don't know about this year. So, what do you think, John? You want to see Sting and Tully do a match, or maybe a cinematic match, or nothing?
Okay, if this winds up being Sting, Darby, Punk versus FTR and Tully, where Sting maybe only gets 5 minutes of ring time and Tully gets, a low blow and 30 seconds in the ring. Okay, that's nostalgic. That'll be cute. I'll be all on board for that. Sting versus Tully one-on-one, I want no part of it. I don't even want it discussed.
Not even if it's a cinematic match of, I don't know what the cinematic match would be between them.
Yeah, exactly. It would have to be like Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian. It would have to be, Tully's face on a 35-year-old wrestler's body, and and so the same thing. You get Surfer Sting across the ring from him. It's all green screened, and they put together this amazing match that looks like it took place in 1988. That I'm fine with.
There you go. Okay. Well, let's get into all the rumors, because you have a pile of rumors, and we need to get started on them because there's so many.
Yeah, they're a little thin in girth today, but there's still plenty of them. All right, the first one, and this one's just kind of for fun. It made me chuckle. I know it made you chuckle as well. Santos Escobar is out there. He's trying to book himself for next year's WrestleMania already. And the person he's got on his mind is Braun Strowman's dad, who is X-Pac.
So this is pretty funny. X-Pac went on to Twitter, and he's telling the story of how he's built a new home gym, and he took a picture of himself, and it was angled in such a way where you see, like, hey, the results of him working out, which was great. Plus you see like the gray beard hanging down. And if you look quick, you say, wow, I can see the resemblance to Braun Strowman. Of course, you don't see that the person's 100 foot tall or anything like that, but you can kind of make the leap. So when Braun Strowman, he comes on after that and posts on Twitter, "Dad?" ? And of course, Santos Escobar said, since X-Pac is getting himself into ring shape, Santos Escobar just says, "Hey, me and you, #WrestleMania," which of course will set up the great match of El Hijo del Fantasma versus the 1-2-3 Kid for the custody of Braun Strowman.
Book it, baby. All right.
That'll put the asses in the seats.
All right. Next up, we've spoken many times about before Brock showed up at SummerSlam about how we thought maybe Rocky was coming back for his 25th anniversary sometime around Survivor Series, and maybe he would be this year's WrestleMania opponent for Reigns. And they were holding Brock off because, hey, they're already thinking 2 years down the line. So are they just going to – is it just as easy as they're now going to switch? Rock's 2 years down the line and Brock's this year?
I don't know. To me, on this, where there's smoke, there's a little bit of fire. Ringside News says that The Rock is a lock for WrestleMania 39. I don't exactly trust Ringside News's exclusives that often, especially when you don't see any confirmation anywhere else. The way I see this, though, is when The Rock wants to make his return and The Rock has the time in his schedule, that'll be when that happens. And if The Rock were to contact WWE and say, look, I can be at SmackDown in 3 weeks, guess what? That's when the match is. It's not going to be one of these. So, of course, The Rock is a businessman, and so is Vince, and they'll definitely look at WrestleMania. Now, the thing with Brock Lesnar, though, part of me really feels like they're building to Crown Jewel and not to WrestleMania. I could be wrong, and it'll probably be all clarified tomorrow night when Brock is on SmackDown in Madison Square Garden. But I don't know. I think we're very thin on concrete confirmation on this. So, but that's kind of where I stand.
All righty. Moving along, okay, we've seen what became of Adam Cole. That was a nice, big, juicy rumor for several weeks, maybe even months. Boom. Yeah, just for the sake of housekeeping, what was the final plans they offered to try and keep him in WWE?
Well, nobody's really talking about what the actual pitch was or anything like that. But again, Ringside News has a story out where they say that they offered him a manager spot on the main roster. That's the only place I've heard it. It seems really weird. I don't think that would have been any seriousness behind that, but he's a great talker and everything like that. I can see where it would be good, but come on. Like that, if that was the offer, it wasn't very serious. I don't take that news story serious at all.
Okay. All right. Now, earlier in the week, you spoke about Kevin Owens and his Mount Rushmore tweet that was quickly erased. And, is he trolling us? Is he just, he's just messing around? Now, until earlier this week, I thought the last time we had heard about Kevin Owens and contract situation was, 2.5, 3 years ago, he did an interview and it just signed a 5-year extension. Maybe not necessarily the case.
Yeah, everything that we're hearing about this story is true. So WWE, when they signed their new television rights deals and when AEW launched, because that was around the same time, they restructured a lot of talent deals. So it seems to me like they probably were for more money and shorter duration. So I don't know if that meant the same value on the deal, but quicker to the contract end or whatever. So Kevin Owens was supposed to go through 2023, and now his deal is up on January 1st, 2022. And he's not the only person that had his contract restructured, but we don't know who anybody else is. That one just came out 2 days ago. So I'm sure we'll learn more. Contracts, we're going to be following contracts for a long time. It's going to be all we talk about as long as you got these two behemoth companies that are operating in. It'll be really interesting when some of the AEW contracts come up. You can already hear them bragging, kind of bragging, yeah, on air. Britt Baker, she extended her contract. Scorpio Sky extended his contract. So Tony Khan seems to be ahead of these things and getting, pen to paper before they come up. So we'll see what happens. But I think that first AEW jump to WWE is going to be a pretty big story. I just have no clue who it'll be or when it'll be.
All righty. Okay. Earlier this week, we passed the 30-day mark for some NXT talents that were recently let go. Not least of which on that list, Mercedes Martinez, Bobby Fish, Leon Ruff, Bronson Reed.
Yeah, and you know what? For the most part, you're seeing a lot of these people taking bookings. Bronson Reed, he's a tough one, though, because he is not an American citizen. So he only has 60 days, essentially, to find himself a gig now that his contract is up with WWE. So he actually wrote that on Twitter yesterday that, he's a free agent or 2 days ago. He's a free agent as of today, and he'll be looking to reinvent. So, yeah, all these talent that were released, for the most part, all of them are now available. Bray Wyatt is an exception. He had a 90-day, and he was a one-off release. So, yeah. So he's not ready yet.
All righty. Okay. This is another one that, made me do a double take and then smile. Vince Russo and the WWE working together again.
So this comes from the mouth of Vince Russo, bro. Bro, he worked with WWE on a project earlier this week, bro. And apparently Russo said that he worked on a project with them and he thought it was probably for Peacock. So to me, that says it was some sort of documentary or whatever. Yeah. Russo has always said on whatever podcast you listen to him on, he always says that he's willing to help WWE if they're willing to take his help, but he doesn't want a job. So whether you're a fan of Russo or not, he's always willing to jump back in some sort of capacity. And it looks like WWE is at least starting to open the door a little. So.
Hey, maybe that means there's a docu-series or documentary, coming on the Attitude Era that he was, so part and parcel to.
Yeah, or it'll be a dirt piece on Vince Russo.
All right, moving right along. Speaking of people not all that welcome in the wrestling business, Tessa Blanchard. She got people talking by posting pictures of herself holding up some DiBiase $1 million bills, led people to believe maybe she was hanging out at the CWC. Anything to this?
We want Tessa. No, we don't. This is the chant that we got at all out on Sunday. So Bodyslam.net reported that Tessa has only spoken to the NWA, and that was actually confirmed by Fightful on August 20th. So she has spoken with the NWA. That's been confirmed. Bodyslam.net reports that she is not being considered by AEW or WWE. And then an independent reporter called her nuclear. So I'm not sure what the I know there's all kinds of stuff, as Tessa has said and done in the past, that has led to this sort of reputation. I'm not sure if there's 100% truth to the fact that WWE and AEW have no interest, but this one, nobody's talking about her. She's been out of contract for I think 2 years now, basically. So if there was interest, I'm sure at this point they would have had her under contract. Especially you got Tully Blanchard at AEW, and she'd be a perfect fit in WWE's women's division. So I don't, if there was interest, she'd be under contract. And in the end, as far as the NWA goes, though, if they were going to bring her in, I would have thought it would have been for their St. Louis all women's show.
Sure.
So apparently, if there was interest, it wasn't mutual there. So who knows? At some point, we're going to get an update on Tessa Blanchard, what she's up to. But as of right now, it's all just this like murky, rumory stuff.
All right. Okay. The Miz, he's got himself, that knee must be 100%. He's got himself a little side project. What do you know?
Yeah. It's for a couple of weeks we've known he's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. But geez, I guess that's coming up pretty quick here. And I don't know how they do the tapings on that or anything. So I don't know, if he's already done all the stuff and they'll be releasing it, or if it's like a live show. Are you a fan of Dancing with the Stars? I've never watched it. I have no clue how this works.
I am absolutely not a fan of Dancing with the Stars.
Well, if you're a fan of Dancing with the Stars and watching the show, please leave a comment. Let us know how it works. But yeah, I'd say he's ready. If he can dance, he can wrestle.
All right. Okay, Booker T. Booker T going to be back on TV, perhaps in a market near you, but maybe not in the way you think.
I don't know if he will be. His company will be. Reality of Wrestling, they signed a deal to be in 50 markets. Now, some of those markets, it will be at 3 a.m. So the coveted 3 a.m. slot is not always the best. But some of them will be at 3 in the afternoon. So kind of a weird thing. But it seemed like it was a deal with CW and ABC and then some other lesser known stations. So there's most of the major markets are going to carry this in some way if you have the station. Sure. I know Jacksonville and Tampa are the two Florida area ones. Up in your neck of the woods, John, I think Albany, Schenectady in the New York region is going to be carrying it. I'm not sure if it's going to get down to the city or in New Jersey at all. So I'll be interested to see what this looks like on television. I know they've had a very, very good amount of success in streaming. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's you can always use more. There's so many channels out there. How could you not get into Market One on some little channel? Give them the 1996 ECW treatment. The MSG network at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday into a Saturday.
Yep.
Anyway,
there's been decent talent that's come out of Booker T's school. Roxy, who is going to be wrestling for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship this weekend. She's a Booker T alum, and there's many, many others.
Absolutely. Okay, Bryan Danielson. We've talked about him for a long time. We finally know where he's going because he's already there. He did, however, get a counter offer that is interesting from the WWE before he walked away.
Yeah, he had one of the, and he talked about this in the post All Out media scrum, where he was given the opportunity to go to WWE or stay with WWE or re-sign with WWE and have some sort of special treatment where he'd be able to do some outside projects that he wants to. Like he wants to work in Japan and he wants to work in Mexico. So that seemed like those options were somewhat available to him in whatever offer he was getting with WWE. However, what Brian said was, and I'm somewhat paraphrasing his quote here, but he said something to the effect that Vince often tries to protect me from myself. And what he was saying is that he thought that he could sign that contract and then those opportunities would be kind of taken away or not approved.
Okay, yeah, that was the surprising part of it. The fact of, being allowed to work for WWE and yet outside of WWE, don't see that a whole lot.
No, you don't.
And just briefly touching on Bryan Danielson again, when you saw him at All Out, you saw him firsthand. Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner, some derivation thereof was his theme, as we've come accustomed to in WWE. But it wasn't, I think, his first choice.
Well, yeah, on the independents, before WWE, he used Final Countdown. And apparently, there might have been some interest in using that, but Dave Meltzer reported that it wasn't cost prohibitive for even Tony Khan. So apparently those rights were a bit too high to justify.
Wow.
But I like his theme. It at first I didn't because I wanted to hear Flight of the Valkyrie, and you get it, but it's like right at the beginning and then it kind of goes away. So
yeah.
But it's growing on me. I liked how it sounded last night on Dynamite.
Absolutely. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So this is another one of those cases where you hear one thing and then you hear the absolute opposite.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, there was something saying Bray Wyatt going to AEW. It's all but a done deal. Now, maybe not.
So here's how I understand the situation. Dave Meltzer thinks Bray Wyatt going to AEW is going to end up in AEW. Ringside News thinks they can confirm it. Again, I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful says he can't say that he's going to AEW because Bray Wyatt's whole side is super tight-lipped about everything. So he's not sure where Dave got the information, but he's pretty positive it didn't come from the Bray Wyatt side of things, which makes sense because I think Dave's connections are with the AEW side. He seems to be on really good terms with Tony Khan. He has him on all the time. Kenny Omega on all the time. I think he has a texting relationship with many of the EVPs. So to me, it seems like if he's going to get fed information, it's going to be from the AEW side. So I think that this one, I think he's going to go there. Just based on where else is he going to go? He's a top level talent that's not welcome at WWE. He's probably going to go to AEW. He's not going to end up at Impact or Ring of Honor, I don't think.
No, you wouldn't think so. AEW just makes total sense because all the over the top ideas, they've got the funding to make them come to fruition. It would be a shame if he didn't wind up there, short of going back to WWE.
Yeah.
Just to wrap it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's my take on it. I mean, I would think that he'll go there. I mean, I don't think anybody would be shocked if he walked out at all.
All right, and lastly, The Undertaker set to make an appearance at MSG, kind of, sort of, maybe?
Yeah, Al Carl chiming in, with the Dark Order in shambles right now, Bray needs to save them. I think that's Hangman Page's role. I mean, I can see, Bray Wyatt, he seems to be the perfect fit for the Dark Order. I think Hangman Page is going to come back and get them all on the same page. No pun intended, but maybe it's a Bray Wyatt thing. You were talking about The Undertaker.
Yes. He, in some form, we're going to see him during this MSG show. We think, we hope, maybe.
If there was anything significant happening with The Undertaker at MSG, WWE would be all over it. Instead, what we have are very, very few news outlets that are somewhat reporting that The Undertaker will be there. Again, where there's smoke, there's fire. So if he's there, I'm going to say it's like a pre-recorded video or something like that. We're not going to get Undertaker's long entrance on Friday. I don't think.
No.
You know what? If it happens, it happens. But I think that the WWE would be pushing this if it was going to happen, and I think other news outlets would have it. He does have a Netflix movie coming out, which is what we talked about on the show yesterday. It's one of these hokey choose your own adventure style where you respond to the prompts. So I could see that they're going to do something to promote that movie in some way. So I just don't see him walking out at Madison Square Garden. They already have John Cena in a dark match, presumably. They've got Brock Lesnar on the show. I'm not sure that bringing the Undertaker in would add additional eyeballs over the Brock Lesnar situation.
Yeah, that was my instant take on the situation, was that, you're getting these little tiny snippet rumors just saying Undertaker, Madison Square Garden, with really no heft to them.
Right.
And the first thing I thought was it's just going to be a commercial for this thing he's doing with the New Day.
Exactly. And speaking of commercials, we'll be right back. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bodyslamclothes.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20, and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code SHIRTS10. Go to bodyslamclothes.com right now to check it out. And join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Monday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports, and the show kicks off each Monday at 7 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And each Tuesday, Al Carl hosts the Essential Wrestling Podcast alongside John Smith, myself, John DeConnie, and Gary Mahaffey. It's another week of updates and highlights in the world of wrestling. Hear our analysis on who we think is going to win the week's matches. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And Pro Wrestling Pick'em. It's a place where you can join or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends or play against the universe. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, currently going out to over 4,200 people each Friday. It consolidates all the top stories in professional wrestling into a quick-to-read email written by me for you for free. Sign up now at bodyslambrigade.com. And, of course, this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday, and occasionally on Friday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch us live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 a.m. This is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we thank you for your support. Okay, John, AEW effed up last night with Suzuki's theme. What are they thinking? They play him almost all the way out to the ring. He's like in the ringside area, and right before the big crowd pop moment, they stop and they play Moxley's music. I think
it's
they
like
cut some out of the match. Like they should have done the entrance and cut some of the match. But
it's like not getting Adam Cole going boom.
Right. So anyway, the New Japan fans that were tuning in to sing along are very irritated. But we have some news coming up. So Cody's going to make his return at Arthur Ashe Stadium. He's going to face Malachi Black in a rare AEW rematch. He's the only guy who does them. He's wrestled Darby 3 times, Brody Lee twice, now Malachi Black twice. So unlike the last time, though, where he came back and beat Brody Lee, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think Malachi Black's going to beat him again. A longer match, but I can't see this being a Cody win here.
Yeah, exactly. It won't be a squash like last time. Cody will get his offense in. He'll probably even hit Crossroads, but Malachi will kick out of it, but yeah, it would make more sense for Malachi Black to continue on and win that feud and put the period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, and this is going to be the biggest AEW crowd ever so far. It'll be bigger than the United Center crowd, and it'll be bigger than the Sears Center or now Arena crowds. So they do seem to be stacking up the card here. They've got Cody on here with a big match against Malachi Black. MJF. Now MJF is facing Brian Pillman, so I don't expect it to be super, super competitive, but they're putting MJF in the ring on this show. And they're teasing Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega. They have not confirmed this match. Kenny has not accepted a match here. But, when Bodyslam.net put their initial report out, they said he would debut at Arthur Ashe.
Right.
And now they're setting up this Omega match. So it kind of would make sense that if he's going to debut and they're kind of teasing this, maybe that's what they'll do. But I, what's your take on this? Like, Kenny, I guess, apparently said to Brian Danielson last night that that's not how things work in AEW. You have to establish yourself before you fight the champ. So what's your thoughts? Should they go straight to this match?
Why not? It's so hot right now. Why not? You can even make it a non-title match. This is, you make it what do they call it? The Eliminator or whatever. Like, if you beat me, then I'll give you a title shot. And then you won't beat me, but, it'll still be a hell of a match one way or another. And, someone in the Elite will find a way to get Kenny the win, but we'll be thoroughly entertained for 25 minutes.
I'm with you. I think they should do a non-title match. I think that if they do a actual title match, it goes against everything that they've been building for the last 3 years. You don't hot shot into a title match like that. You do have to earn it. So I agree with you. I think they should do exactly what you're saying, a non-title match. And the outcome, whether Bryan Danielson gets a win or he doesn't get a win, we either have one good match or we have the Christian Cage situation where Daniel gets a match, gets a win, and we set up the big pay-per-view match.
Sure.
Because who else is he going to fight at Full Gear if it's not Bryan Danielson at this point? Hangman Page, right?
So, yeah, look on your milk carton and Adam Page.
If everybody's ready, right? Hangman Page is off because of he's having a child or whatever. He's one of their top stars. Tony Khan said in the post All Out media scrum that he would have given Hangman Page that time, even if they were planning on putting the belt on him. So I guess we'll see. But so that's our Arthur Ashe Stadium card so far. We've got MJF versus Pillman, Cody versus Malachi Black, and maybe Daniel Bryan Bryan Danielson. That's going to take me a long time to say.
Yeah,
the American Dragon versus Kenny Omega. Al says Page can't challenge Kenny because they lost that elimination match, right? I think he went to the back of the line. I think that was what they said, right?
Yeah, that's their eliminator. So now, once he's done doing his paternity leave, if you will, he comes back, wrestles a bunch on Dark, Elevation, whatever, and works himself right back up.
Yeah, I think those were the words that were used. I think they didn't call it a world title eliminator match. I think they called it. I think Kenny said that if you don't win, you have to go to the back of the line. I think I'll have to re-review the tape on that just to be sure. But yeah, I think he'll come back and they'll find a way for him to get back in that title picture. He'll be the guy. Yeah. Rampage tomorrow night. They've announced Pac versus Andrade. They announced that back last week. We also have Darby Allin and Sting replying to Tully Blanchard. The AEW Women's Champion Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter and Rebel are facing Ruby Soho, Riho, and Chris Statlander. Brian Pillman Jr. wrestling in Cincinnati against Max Caster. So all those matches have already happened. They were taped after last night's Dynamite. The spoilers are out there, so you try to avoid them if you can, and if you want to, I guess. But it should be a good episode of Rampage, I think.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. The Pac Andrade match, that's the one. We're all in for that. Next week, we have Adam Cole's in-ring debut against Frankie Kazarian, which I think that's just Frankie's role now, right? He's going to be wrestling people as they come in the door. Christian Cage, now Adam Cole. So,
yeah, I think Cole it will be ready to really go with Frankie, unlike Christian was. But obviously Christian's gotten up to speed, and nothing against him, but they threw him at Kaz and then gave him 18 minutes or something like that. Right, it was just. Cole could probably go with him for 30 minutes, so that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's similar to the Samoa Joe stuff, right? Like Samoa Joe, I don't think was ready to go as long as he went with Karrion Kross. I don't think Christian was ready to go as long as he went with Frankie Kazarian. But Adam Cole's going to be ready because he just wrestled 25 minutes against Kyle O'Reilly, 2 weeks ago or something. So. We also have Jade Cargill versus Layla Hirsch, Darby Allin versus Shawn Spears. So we're getting used to seeing Layla Hirsch in these, face to waist matches.
Davey and Goliath, nose to nipples. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Jade is even more green than Camille, but maybe Layla Hirsch is the person who can get a killer match out of her. I hope they don't squash poor Layla.
That was the first thing I thought when they booked that match was, okay, the first thing I thought was the high differential. Second thing I thought was she might be the perfect person to stretch Jade out a little bit because has she had a match go longer than 90 seconds?
No, I mean, if they have, it's been 88 seconds of posing and one jaded, Al pointed out that Layla Hirsch is coming home to Jersey. So I thought it was Moscow, Russia, but, what do I know?
That's been entertaining since the very first time they introduced her from Moscow, Russia, and then immediately go into, well, she was a New Jersey State All-American. Like, one or the other. Come on.
Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy seemingly having a hair versus hair match at some point, to which Orange Cassidy says,
whatever.
We all do. Whatever. I haven't been, if this was Griff Garrison versus Matt Hardy, or Jungle Boy versus Matt Hardy, we'd have a conversation here. But Orange Cassidy, whatever.
Yeah, when I forget if it was on Helico or Jack Evans, when they were there with the scissors, my thought was Jungle Boy's out there. Like that's a hey, stay away from my hair thing. But Orange Cassidy, all right, if he winds up with a shaved head, okay.
Yeah, if it was, I'll throw another person out there. If it was Hook, there's another person. One day, mark my word, one day Hook's hair is going to be main eventing All Out. So I'm not sure if he'll be there, but
write it down.
And it appears CM Punk is going to be going up against a member of Team Taz. Speaking of Team Taz, Hook. So CM Punk throwing Taz's lines at him last night. Survive if I let you. Yeah.
That did not sit well with Taz.
It's a fun thing to watch for me to watch Taz. I think he's so great on commentary, and then he has to flip the switch like this to be like this the heel manager. It's fun for me to watch.
Yeah, it's not exactly seamless, but it's fun.
Yeah, it was not seamless at all. It was pretty weird actually. So. All that to say, let's see. AEW signed Lee Moriarty yesterday. It was, I don't know when they put pen to paper, but Lee had a match for AEW Dark Elevation. He was wrestling Daniel Garcia, who has not got a contract, by the way. And after the match, Tony Khan did his standard thing where he comes out and says, hey, would you like to work for AEW? And then they go to the back, presumably, to put pen to paper. He must clear some of this stuff ahead of time. I know with Sky Blue, it was complete shoot. She had no idea that she was going to get her added to the Casino Battle Royal. But could you imagine if the guy comes back and says, well, can we talk about the finer points of the deal first before he accepts it in front of the world?
Well, I don't have my representation here right now.
Yeah, exactly. You're taking advantage of me by not going through my agent. So, but Lee Moriarty, I've seen him a whole bunch of times live at the GCW shows and things like that. So he's a good get.
Good stuff.
Dark Side of the Ring Season 3 sneak peek tonight. Chris Jericho will be discussing the series with the series creators. It kind of gives me the Conrad Thompson vibe, because Conrad has done the extended versions with them at the 2300 arena. So maybe Jericho will be there as well. So.
Yeah, it looked like a similar setup. So yeah, probably.
Yeah. And then some sad but hopeful news, I guess. WWE issued a statement yesterday about Triple H going. He underwent a successful procedure last week at Yale New Haven Hospital following a cardiac event that was brought on by a genetic heart issue. Paul is expected to make a full recovery, so glad to hear that. Cardiac, what was it? What was the word they used? A cardiac event doesn't sound good, but glad to know that he's doing well.
Yeah, I never thought there was going to be a day where I was going to feel for Triple H, because obviously Paul Levesque could be the nicest guy in the world. I hated the character. And now I find myself, seeing. I think that you broke that. I got that in a text message from you yesterday. My first thought was, "Damn it, Vince, you're killing this man."
Yes, I know, and it's not fun to joke. It's not good to joke about that, but yeah, that's kind of what everybody's initial reaction was. Is that, I have felt for Triple H over the last month, just based on all the stuff that's happening with NXT. And I don't think it was, I thought the product was pretty good. Yes, I complain about it at times. Sure. But as far as WWE product, it was top shelf for me. So
completely agree.
Yeah. So, but best wishes to Triple H for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, as we close out the show, John, tonight on Impact Wrestling, PWI's number 10 wrestler, Rich Swann, will be facing off against number 159, Carl Anderson. So if the PWI rankings have any indication, Carl Anderson's eating a pin here, right?
Well, it is a bunkhouse brawl, so we don't know exactly what that'll bring into things. But yeah, probably.
Yeah, the big LG. Willie Mack is probably no real opponent for the big LG, so... Moose versus Eddie Edwards, Chris Bay versus David Finlay, Macklin versus the Canadian Destroyer Petey Williams, Rosemary versus Tasha Steele, John Schuyler versus Laredo Kid on BTI. Now, I have seen Laredo Kid. He's like at every independent show I go to. He's unreal to watch in person. So hopefully that translates on the television. We've seen him a number of times.
Yeah.
But it's kind of surprising to me that he hasn't been signed anywhere. So,
yeah, and the fact that they're putting him in with John Schuyler, who's it seems like they've got a little something going for this guy. They've been featuring him recently. Maybe Laredo Kid's there to make him really shine. So maybe we'll get a nice 15-minute BTI match.
Yeah, I haven't seen the John Schuyler is all Impact graphic yet, but he seems to be getting dates for sure. Tomorrow night on SmackDown, Brock Lesnar will be on the show. Edge versus Rollins, number 2. Becky and Bianca contract signing. The rumors about The Undertaker, and all kinds of stuff on as SmackDown returns to Madison Square Garden. So.
That should be a fun show. You're right around September 11th. You're in New York City. You're at the Mecca. SmackDown is obviously the brand that they put more effort into these days. So that should be a really good show.
The interesting thing is this is supposed to be Super SmackDown, and it was been colored with the red and blue for the whole time. And maybe we all mistook that as Super SmackDown red, white, and blue. It's a patriotic affair, not that it's going to be a SmackDown Raw crossover.
Right.
Like I think everybody assumed, but because they haven't announced a single Raw name. So Ring of Honor has one of their major pay-per-views this weekend. I was originally going to be going to it in person when it was taking place down here in Florida. Now they've moved it to the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, so I won't be there. If I was there, I would see Bandito defend the Ring of Honor World Championship in a 4-way, Jonathan Gresham defending the Pure Championship against Josh Woods, and finally, after all this time, the Women's World Championship will be established. Roxy versus Miranda Alizé, both recently signed by Ring of Honor, so good for them. And a bunch of other stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, and this is Death Before Dishonor. That's one of their big shows. So,
Yep.
Going to be a good time.
John, anything we left off in the world of wrestling today?
Good Lord, I can't imagine there's any rock we did not turn over.
We talked about El Io del Fantasma versus the 1-2-3 Kid at WrestleMania. If we're talking about that, there's nothing we left no rock we left uncovered. I'm literally looking under all of them over here. We've got them all. So that said, for John DeConnie, I'm Ryan Joy. We'll be back on Monday with another episode of the Daily Wrestling News Show. But for today, we're out.
See ya.